Hello, everybody. All right, this is live stream Trumpet Q A number 6. Yay! We missed last week because I was out of town for a great gig. Oh, my hair. Oh, sorry about that. It's early. Actually, it's not that early. I didn't have that much of a gig last night. But anyway, so yeah, so had that gig last week in Louisiana. That's why we didn't have a Q&A last week, and that went very well. Got to hang out with a bunch of friends because I took the bus over there, and yeah, that was great. Let me catch you guys up on the news, and then we'll get to some questions here real quick. Great news, we've started 2 new students since the last Q&A. Both of these guys are mature adults. And you know what? I don't know if it's my materials that I put out there or whatever, but I have a tendency to attract to my studio when we're talking about the adults, very intelligent men. And both of these guys are like that. Both of these guys are I don't remember the one guy is in his 80s, the other one I think I don't want to say. That wouldn't be right. But yes, older gentlemen, and they're both extremely intelligent. And that's how it's been. It's almost all the men that have signed up for lessons have been really, really smart men. And, it's kind of weird for me to say we started 2 new students because the way our lessons operate, there's like different levels of commitment. And so it's not, I don't have more the traditional lesson setup where you sign up for this time of this week, this day of the week. We don't really operate like that. So who is a student and who isn't a student, that's kind of, I guess the word would be nebulous. But so the people I call students today are the ones that are currently purchasing a package. We sell lessons in packages of 1 to 12, I think. Yeah, 12 is the most you can buy. And whoever has a package now, we consider those our students right now. It's not the same. So, traditionally we would say, oh, yes, I have this student that pays every month and that student that pays every month. And that's how you would normally say, that's how many students I have. But I don't operate that the way. I've got something that's a lot more flexible than the traditional approach. Anyway, what else? What other news do I have for you? Most of my business work this past 2 weeks has been invested into publishing. Now, in January, I switched the way I do my daily stuff. And I noticed that I had a huge backlog on publishing new materials, new compositions, right? And I thought, you know what, over the summer, I better just put everything else on hold, get these new pieces out there. The new compositions, the next 2 things I'm writing are going to be months before they're done. So I'm not going to have another backlog like this. This is just because I switched systems. So the last 2 weeks, and you know what? With this new system, I can actually tell how much time I'm investing into each of these things. And it's amazing. Just for one little duet, I've been publishing these hymn duets, right? For one duet, it takes a minimum of 5 hours of work. And I'm not talking about lazy work. I'm talking about 5 hours of intense this step to that step to this step to that step. In fact, I'll show you how I do this. This is part of my new system. Each composition that I write. Now, this is not the writing time, by the way. I'm not talking about the time that it takes to write the music. Okay? That's something entirely different. Sometimes publishing the music takes 2 or 3 times as much time as writing the music. So I have these forms. Let me show you the form. Here's one of the hymns that I'm trying to publish now. This is a workflow sheet that I use. And basically what this workflow sheet does for me is it makes sure that I'm doing the right steps in the right order. Because things can take longer to get done if you don't do them in the right order, right? For example, if you do, here's a great example. The cover normally has the catalog number on it, right? Well, you can't order the cover until you have a catalog number. And we just changed our catalog number scheme so that it includes information about the song. Okay, so now all of this stuff about the song needs to be done first before you get a catalog number. So I can't even ask my wife for a cover until certain steps are done first. And if I don't do those steps in a certain order, then I might end up ordering that cover from her. I call it ordering. I know she's my wife, right? But I actually send an order to her through the email. I'll order a cover from her. If I don't do that soon enough in the process, then when all this other work is done, I won't have a cover, so I can't publish it. You see what I'm saying? So that will make it take longer. So yeah, that workflow thing is a big deal. Anyway, that's what I've been doing this week. I'm trying to publish. I don't remember how many it is. It's about 6 or 7 different pieces right now, and it's taking all my time, but I'm doing it that way so that that's out of the way. I want that work to be out of the way so I can, and here's the reason why, by the way, for those of you who are following all this. The reason I want that out of the way is because I have books that I need to get finished. And the publishing stuff for the music is taking time away from the books. So I want to get these compositions published as soon as possible so that I can get now these books that have been stagnated, get those out and get them going. And that's good news for you guys, because a lot of this stuff, I get questions all the time. I get questions from people. How do I do this? How do I do that? This week I got questions about how do you use the daily routine book? Well, there's a book coming out that explains exactly how to use in fact, the whole reason why I wrote the book is so that people who come to my system understand how all these things work together. And, that book is kind of available right now. It's just not published yet, right? So it's called One Range. And I think I call it a strategy guide. Too much gaming in my life, right? A strategy guide for the books. It includes the daily routines, the Chops Express, and all of the Chops books. And for that matter, I've got 2 Chops books that are ready to publish now. I've got the Chops Tyro that I just finished, the Chops Player that's been finished now for months. These are books that are ready to go, and I just haven't had the time. And I told you that it takes a minimum of 5 hours for each whatever duet or trio or trumpet group ensemble piece. The time that it takes to put these books together is at least 4 or 5 times that. The investment that it takes to publish one of these books. And I'm talking, once again, I'm saying after the book is already finished, right? The book's already done. And now there's all this other time that has to be invested into it. And yeah, I have I have a list of books. At the top of the list are the books that are done, right? They're actually finished and not published. They're just sitting in the queue waiting to be published, right? And then there's books that I have most of the content. I just haven't finalized the content. That would be stuff like the 7 stages. I'm working on a book of 7 stages for preparing music literature. And that book is great. I actually the notes that I have so far, I actually use that with my students sometimes. There's one guy in one of my Skype students. I think he lives in Alabama or Georgia. That book, it's not even finished yet, right? That book changed his life, he said. It's like all the stuff he ever wanted to be able to do on the trumpet, he's doing it now. And you know what? The thing is without that stuff, all the other stuff that I'm known for, the daily routines and all that, not worth anything. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. It's just a lot of publishing stuff, and gigs and students. This is the time of the year where everyone's doing their makeups because they know they're going out of town. I'm going out of town too, so we're all trying to cram. So that's why, by the way, this Q&A is going to be very short, because I have to teach it at 10 this morning. That's why I started 5 minutes early, just to add a little bit of time to this. Okay, what else do I have? So the gigs I played this week, that one in Louisiana, that was great. And I did a church gig, a patriotic church gig. I got to play for the first time since I was in college. And in fact, I was just sight reading it because I didn't have the music for it, right? But, we've been playing this stuff, right? What's it called? Bugler's Holiday, right? We played that at church at a church gig on Sunday. That was cool. What else? Did a 4th of July gig with a rock band, The Grooves, out of Austin. There's a band in Austin called The Grooves. Whenever they come to Houston, they call me, and I really enjoy playing with them. Anyway, and then I played yesterday at a old folks home. Well, you know what? It's not really old folks home. What it is one of those independent living centers. So they don't need like nurses and all that stuff. It's just a retirement community sort of, except that this was in a high rise. All right. So other news, we published 9 videos since the last Q&A. Now, most of those videos are demo videos for these ensembles I'm trying to get published, right? And that is part of that time that I told you about. So part of the time that it takes, part of that 5 hours, is the time that it takes to make the recording. Because you can't, this is something, I don't know how much you guys know this, you can't sell a composition without people being able to hear it And today, the thing is you can just do the playback on the computer. Well, there's a lot of stuff that sounds great on the computer and is not playable on the trumpet, right? Stuff that, and that's just something you learn as you get better at composing. So, yeah, this is takes a lot of time, but I think this is one of the reasons I'm selling so many compositions now. I sell an average of one a day, which is, for now, I'm looking forward to a future much better than that, right? But for now, that's awesome. That's the best it's ever been. An average of one. Actually, last year was more than one a day. No, I did say last year. Last month. Last month, we sold 39 compositions. So that's wonderful. Anyway, so that's what I've got. And since nobody's asked a question live yet, I've got two questions here that I might not have time for, from email. And I might just make separate videos with these. One is about how to use the daily routines when you're just starting, right? And then the other one is about the all-state improv etudes, how to get started with the all-state improv. But before I go into that, while I was sitting here, I guess 15 minutes before we started, I was looking at my memories on Facebook, right? I like the memories because I can look back and say, wow, that's happened 4 years ago today, right? Well, 4 years ago today, I was on a recording session with some of the best musicians in Houston. Tom Bacon was on horn. Tom Bacon is a famous French horn player. Dave Kirk is the tuba player, famous tuba player from the Houston Symphony. Yeah, so the whole, and it was in this amazing studio. We were playing, I would say it's Middle Eastern music with a orchestral slant, right? The whole thing was something, it was a project for something in the Middle East. And what I've posted on Facebook was a comment. I said, I have the honor of being the worst player in the, something like that, the worst player in the session, right? And what shocked me, and this is the part I wanted to share with you, what shocked me was the responses from the people who were not in. So this is a way. This isn't. I didn't come up with that. This is a way that humble musicians compliment the people that they're working with, right? A lot of times musicians will say that they're the worst player in the section to say, this guy's really good and that guy's really good and boy, this is great. Most of us as musicians like it when we're the worst player, because that means that we're getting something better than they are, right? So I meant it as a compliment. But you know what? Sometimes culturally, and this is where that contradiction comes in again. I don't know if it was this week or if it's getting published next week, but I could talk about the cultural contradiction, right? Because I say on the one hand that we need to be part of this culture. On the other hand, I say don't accept everything the culture says, right? We want to be in the culture, not of the culture, right? So this is just one of the things culturally that we are raised to do, right? We're brought up to say, as a compliment to the other guys in the section, it's nice to be the worst player in the section. Well, the comments that I got on that post on Facebook opened my eyes to a different reality. And I wrote down and I have this weird stuff that I do, that keeping notes on life almost, right? I haven't told you guys about that, but maybe later I'll talk about that. But I wrote down in my little thing, I said, from this point forward, don't ever put yourself down to compliment other people. That's not true humility. That's fake. And it's not necessary. So I was just looking at that before we started this. I was just looking at that. That's powerful, right? Don't put yourself down in an effort to put other people up. You don't have to do that. I could have just said, it's an honor to work with such wonderful players, right? Wonderful musicians. I could have just said that. Why did I have to put myself down? That's the cultural part. That's the part that I did because everybody else does that, right? Yeah, that's, if you look at the way. So you guys know that I'm a Christian. What kind of Christian am I? I'm the kind of Christian that believes in the power of the Holy Spirit. I'm not a passive Christian. I've said it many times. I don't want to just be a member of a club of like-minded people, right? You know, being a Christian is not like, I don't know, any of the different, like chess club, right? You know, it's not like that. It's not about being with like-minded individuals. Okay, there is sometimes I say that too. The way I say it is too total, right? I make it sound like I don't want to be in fellowship with Christians. That's not what I mean either, right? I understand the value of fellowship with other Christians. I understand that. What I'm saying is that's not the gist of it, okay? And in the kind of Christianity that I believe in, what comes out of your mouth has power. Okay? What comes out of your mouth has power. So it was actually not Christian. We think that it's a very humble thing to say. I'm the worst player in the section. No, it's not such a bad thing to say if you actually truly believe that. Like if there's like this huge gap between you and the other guys, right? But that's not really what I was saying, right? I was just I was demeaning myself as a way to compliment them. And from this point forward, 4 years ago, that's a big no-no. I don't operate that way anymore. Anyway, so you know what? There's no way I'm going to be able to answer these two questions. I have them printed out. I'm going to make separate videos. They might be car videos because I am going out of town. So I might answer these. I might make videos. I already answered the emails. I'm not saying that I haven't answered, but I told, I think it would be great to, that's how I work. Someone asked me this week, am I going to do any more videos about the Allstate music, the jazz music, right? And I wrote back, I said, the reason I did so many of those last year was because people were asking questions. And it's better for me to answer those questions that way. If people don't ask questions this year, then what do I do? Sit there and pontificate about the etudes? I mean, how do you even know that you're answering anybody's question at that point? So, yeah. So we will definitely have a Q&A next week, but it won't be here in my studio. So maybe I'll find someplace outside or something where I can let you guys see the beautiful landscape, huh? Anyway, so yes, It's easier for me to make a video or write. In fact, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to even go as far as to say that all of my best books were answers to people's questions. Let that sink in. Okay? I don't just like, some people talk about jazz, certain players in jazz, not everybody, right? But there's people that will say so and so just vomits notes, right? And I don't just, contrary to what some people have accused me of, I don't just vomit information about the trumpet. I can't work like that. I can't just start saying stuff. That's why when I prepare for this Q&A, in case nobody asks any questions, like today, I think the reason today, it's been a very huge, busy week. And this week I didn't advertise at all for this Q&A. So it's not a surprise to me that nobody's asking questions, right? So, but that's why I'm prepared. That's why, just in case that happens, I have these things so that I have something to talk about here. But yes, that's how I operate. So the truth is, one of these guys just answered me this morning. I sent him the information he wanted, and he was very respectful. When we have high school people today that are respectful, we should congratulate them for that, right? Because too many today are not. He thanked me for the information. But you know what? He also said at the end of it, sorry for any inconvenience. Well, I tell you, if it wasn't for your questions, I would have nothing to say. That's how my mind is set up. So it's not an inconvenience to me. When I start having too many, which I anticipate that happening eventually, right? Right now it's not happening. But I do anticipate eventually that there'll be, and why do I anticipate that? Because it's happened in the past. Things happen in seasons, right? Sometimes there's not enough time and there's just way too many people asking. I've been doing this asking, and the Q&A thing, I've been doing it online, just not on the video, right? I've been doing this for 30 years now. All right. So this is not new to me. The video is new. Answering people's questions, not new, right? Okay. So it is not an inconvenience to ask me questions. You actually help me for coming up with ideas for books, for coming up with ideas for videos, coming up with ideas for modules. You actually help me when you ask me questions, because you help me formalize my thoughts so that I have something to present to the public, right? Without that, none of my materials would exist. Okay? All right. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. We will have a Q&A next week. So what's today's date? Today's the 6th. So we're looking at the 13th is the next Q&A, unless something horrible happens, but I don't anticipate that. All right? Like maybe my laptop breaking or something, but I don't, let's not say that, right? All right, so I'll let you guys go now. I have a student in 4 minutes. God bless you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye. All right.